Welcome to Ike Comics Draw Process, Issue 2, Page 4 of First Sun and Sword today. Okay, the blank page. There's no thumbnails done. That's why I'm not showing those anymore, as I'm thumbnailing on the page, but I didn't do it ahead of time either. So this was all done in kind of in one sitting. I may have gotten up and taken a break at some point in the process. I'm starting off with building an establishing shot because we are moving to a new scene. Sun, Sword, Farah are in I guess a farmer's house, just inside the city. So it's a pretty busy city, but they're in the house, and it happens to have some farm animals and stuff. So it's going to stand out from the background. I want it pretty centered to the shot. You'll notice I just started over on constructing my city. I wanted to get a different shape. So I'm going for kind of a bit of a 2-point perspective, and we can kind of see two roads leading off around this city and this house in the center. So they are there, and Sword is sick with a fever. Farah is trying to take care of things. She's trying to take care of him, secure this location, this house, and the homeowner, to keep it secret that they're there, because she knows that they're going to be in real danger to be discovered, and people will be looking for them. And she's trying to care for him. And yeah, he's basically asleep, and he's with his fever from his foot that's getting infected. And Sun is standing there. He doesn't know what to do with himself. And we're going to see all that in this opening scene. We'll also see the homeowner as Farah's trying to push him out the door and interact with him, get what she needs from him, make sure he keeps it secret. As I'm building this city, I'm doing it all from imagination, but it's from memory also. I have studied cities before. I've drawn some cities that had different elements that are in this shot. I can see the influences, the things I've kind of drawn before that are getting in there. That used to seem like an incredibly daunting task, to draw a city. I would need to reference buildings on the spot to get anything on the page. It would be like speaking a foreign language when you don't know any of the words. Or maybe it's even more like when I try to speak Spanish. I used to know a bunch of the words, and now I can't remember almost any of them. And it's a really weird feeling when you know how to speak in that language, and you even understand when other people speak, but you can't remember any of the language. It's more like that, because you know how to draw, but and you've drawn buildings before, but you don't remember any of the words, any of the language to it. So past drawing has built a repertoire of reference. But at the same time, it's not just that. It's also drawing from imagination. That if you want, like if you wanted to learn something and it really stick, you would want to be able to teach it to someone else. It's kind of that idea. If you can't just draw things you see, it's going to stick a lot better if you try to look away from the reference and draw that thing and understand how it's constructed. A while back, I was drawing firearms. I have a book on firearms, kind of an encyclopedia with lots of pictures. So I was drawing different firearms because I wanted to become more knowledgeable, versatile in what I can draw from imagination, and what I can kind of even reference in the future. And I didn't only draw the guns that I saw. I tried to see the pieces and how they were constructed, and then I tried to make my own weapons by mixing and matching pieces in ways that would make sense. Now, not completely make sense. I didn't engineer them, but I understood the pieces, and some sense of how they functioned and worked together. So some amount of believability for most people. Some people would say, well, that doesn't quite make sense, and that's fine. It's going to look cool. So yeah, there's some reference work that is helpful, but also from imagination. And lately, I'm leaning much more towards drawing from imagination. I think it's because I've, and I've received feedback that a lot of my backgrounds and things can look generic. Things can look, even the figures, they can look a little simple, a little generic, and people are used to seeing comics with more unique designs, a lot more work put into the reference and building of that world. And I accept that. That is a true criticism. I could put more time into it, like someone could, but I'm also aware it has to do with people's tastes, like what people have learned to expect from comics. It's not simply what makes a better comic. There's old comics that people love, but there's old comics that everything's generic. I mean, Jack Kirby's work. There's this kind of everything's kind of generic there. And people can love that. So that's one of the things I consider. It's not that I'm being lazy that I choose to not do more of this design work and like reference. It is that I think that the tastes have changed or leaned more heavily towards more reference because people have gotten used to seeing it because somehow that's become the standard, but it's not the only way and it's not the core point. So if again, the point is the story that you're trying to tell. And if I draw more from imagination and less from reference, if I can just place things on the page, like everything on this shelf right now in this shot, just kind of imagining what would be in this room. Oh, there's some bags of maybe like flour or something. There's baskets, there's pots, and these are all just stacked up because we're in an attic. Now, I didn't fill the room with interesting stuff because it would get visually messy. But I put a few elements to give some life to the place. But I was placing them by imagination here, like, okay, there's going to be these awnings, and here I'm going to have windows, and here a well. Well, the well actually is part of the story, so I needed that there. But if I'm drawing from imagination, I'm much more connected to the story. I'm much more like sitting there looking at it and feeling the story and being a storyteller visually. But and when I'm in that headspace, I'm making choices differently. The choices I'm making on the page, the things that come to me to put in it, only come to me because I'm in that headspace. And it's more fun. It's like it's the way I would want to work. So I'm practicing it. That if I were to make comics, the goal is not like just to be successful, like to make to get a lot of credit for your work, like to get a lot of money for your work. That is not the only goal. The goal for me is also to make the work in the way that I enjoy doing it, to make the work in the way that I can love, to tell stories in the way that I love telling a story. And so that's a longer path. Like it takes a lot of time to build that library in your imagination, to build the polish, the the quality of your work when it's more raw, I guess you could say. But it's the long game, but it's the wiser choice for me, so that I can be enjoying this and loving doing it for a long time. So, drawing from imagination, yeah. Here I'm thinking about these in this is a good example in this panel. These visual planes, this foreground, middle ground, background. I'm throwing some shadow on the wall. It's curved because there's actually a circular window on the wall. So I figured that helps me, go ahead and play with the curves in where the light's hitting more than otherwise I would have been comfortable. Where Sword's going to be in the foreground, there's a lot of black on his beard. Where Sun is, he has less black will be there, and the details of his belt and of his body are going to disappear as it gets close to the foreground visual plane, so that there's no confusion between the two, that they don't kind of interfere with each other. And then the shadow on the wall, I've got it, up to the left, and I'm going to keep it out of the way. I'm thinking of trying to help the characters pop on the planes that they're on, and even using the curve of that shadow to bring the eye to towards the bottom of the panel, to Sword. And so where I'm positioning Farah here, again, the story, she's up above this man, and she wants to be intimidating. Don't tell anyone that we're here. And he's like, I won't. And then she closes the door, and and you see this kind of like pause, this moment where she feels vulnerable, and she's like, you better not. Like, she's not saying that to him, but this is like her anxiety and her stress here, and her like, I will kill this man. I'll hurt this man. Like, he better not reveal where we are. So she's feeling a little weak, a little unable to control this. And a lot of this issue is going to be a story for her, as Sword is sick. And this is setting it up. She's going to be encountering a lot of conflict in social situations, and where she's going to have to trust people and have a lot of worry. And her tool belt is violence, and intimidation. And she's not usually, Sword is better than her at working with people, politics, this kind of thing. So she's going to struggle some with that. I recorded this. I didn't hit record, and I started talking, and then I realized I did. So I don't know if I mentioned this yet. Sun here, he's worried about Sword, and there's going to be some story for him in this. His background, I haven't said much about it in the comic, but it's going to become more clear as it goes on here, that he's not just a kind of impulsive, naive child because he's a child. That other kids, that he'll meet other children here, they're going to think he's weird. Why does he like to walk around in his underwear, basically? Like, he thinks he's a superhero with a cape, right? Not that there's superheroes in this world. And like, he's going to seem naive to them because he's lived a sheltered life. He hasn't interacted with other children. He's been hidden from the emperor for a while. I haven't actually established the story yet. Either he's been raised by the emperor to reach a certain age so that he could be his power could be taken when he came of age. That's one idea I have. The other is he was raised in hiding to try to hide him from the emperor, and then the emperor captured him recently. I'm not sure which road I want to go. Probably the latter. So so he's worried about Sword. He's standing watching Sword as he's sick, but he doesn't know what to do. You can tell by his posture and his kind of closed fists and kind of hands just kind of awkwardly in front of him. He doesn't know what to do, and he'll get into some trouble this issue. Here with the you'll notice the pencils were not very detailed, and as I'm inking this city, I'm starting with the most foreground visual plane, making sure I get the key elements down, and then I go back a layer and I hit a few elements, and I might move around the page some. But if I started at the top of the page and started putting little buildings, really tiny buildings back there, I might put too much detail, or I might put it in the way of a building in front because I'm not penciling completely thoroughly. So I can't just ink from like the top left corner down. I've got to move around the page some. And so you want to do the visual planes that are in front more first, so that you can build in the further back planes without overlap. And it also informs how much detail I need to put, that the main layer is like the main amount of detail. And then as it goes back, I'm going to be reducing it. So it's going to go from like clear roofs with like lines for windows to just like rectangle boxes as it moves further away. And then it's just lines as it gets to the last layer. Yeah. Yeah, this a little more about that drawing. There's also like, maybe we could distinguish design drawing versus kind of natural drawing. Maybe someone out there has better terms for that. I'm sure they do. But this drawing from imagination that I'm doing is also like, I'm seeing my character in a space. I'm trying to capture that. I'm feeling the things I'm drawing, and to me, it leads to a much more natural way of drawing, for me. Just building things and drawing what you see in your mind. And in a way that is less design-oriented drawing. It's less constructing the geometry, the three-dimensional space, the composition, the symmetry, treating figures like blocks, with even treating them like more three-dimensional geometric shapes with visual planes on them. There's some that might end up in shadow. All of those are like constructive or design-oriented drawing. And what I'm doing is much more organic, and by feel and so on. And I experience like a push and pull between the two. I love going more simple shape, more design-oriented and so on. And I feel that is important to my future. And yet, when I'm drawing and I'm drawing a figure, I'm drawing a character, having an emotion, I end up drawing in a certain way where I'm feeling the emotion and I'm bringing it to life. And there just seems to be the way that I naturally do that. And it's not design-oriented. It reminds me more of things I see in a lot of manga versus Western comics. And that feels like the right direction to go mainly. I've got to keep the design in mind, especially in the thumbnail phase. To position, I'm really focusing on where these figures are positioned in these word balloons. And the better I do with that, the easier it's going to be to draw later. So, I mean, I still believe that those things are important. But yeah, if you go back to the first pages of the first issue that were over a year ago versus this, versus late in the last issue, there's a clear transition from trying to go really simple to capturing emotion, conveying the acting. And part of that was my development, but it was also the story became more emotional as I got towards the end, and it evoked that way of drawing in me. It evoked it from me. And so I want to draw stories that are a lot more emotional and that evoke that from me. I need to write stories that go that direction and evoke that in me so that I can draw at my best, draw in the way that I feel is best here. And I've drawn comics before where I'm at a point where I'm like, this feels kind of boring, and that gets into, well, wait, is the story, good? Is the story just immersive enough? Because if it's not evoking that in me, it might not be. And then I need to revisit it and try to improve that. And I just said a little bit in this video about this issue's story and what I'm trying to do with the characters. And, I spent several weeks, a month, working out this story, trying different roads until I found the roads I'm going to use in this story, the paths for these characters. And it still isn't final. It's just good enough that I can start drawing. I think of it like I have a floor. This is as bad as the story's going to be, is what I've written. But because I'm going to work on this for maybe 6 months, I'm going to be thinking about it. I'm going to improve it as I go. And yes, I am going to run out of options as we get towards the end. There's less changes I can make. But that's fun. These limitations can actually create better conditions for creativity, more interesting work. So I forget where I was going with that, but yeah, you'll notice the shadows I'm placing here. The shadow on the left, again, there's a circular window. We see it in the first panel from the outside of the building that they're in, the house. But inside, I haven't shown that window yet. I wanted to just show the window so you would go from one to the other, but I was not able to construct the room where I could position people where I wanted them and show the window. But I have shown the light, the shadow and light created by the window by adding those curved shadows. But in that panel above these, it's helping frame and bring the eye in to the panel. I was thinking about adding some wood grain into the door frame and stuff, but it was too much detail, unnecessary. That's one thing about using thicker lines and only solid lines, no like kind of rough textures and stuff, like dry brushing. It helps me decide if something's too much detail. The wood grain there was too much. Like, it wouldn't have been if I'd approached it with a different style, if I grabbed a thinner pin or used like a dry brush or something to create some kind of texture, see-through area. But if I needed to do that, then I've set these guides on myself. That is beyond, it's beyond what the eye is going to see. I'm nearsighted, and when I was a kid, I was blind for a while. I'd very poor vision for a while before they realized I needed glasses. So there's that. Plus, just knowing how I see without glasses is very, very poor. So I'm used to seeing the world out of focus and blurry and stuff. And so when I draw, I'm kind of capturing that. I'm trying to capture this is a solid world that's blurry. We're not going to bring it all into super focus. And I think that the better I get at that, again, that can help people connect with a story because they can project into the story. They can fill it in with their imagination. I think it can help. It also helps them, read the picture more quickly, and that's part of it too. Is if you take too long on a panel, you're pulled out of the story. I mean, there's comics that are by amazing artists, but when I read the comic, I end up, I'm sure other people do too, I'll just pause on a page, and yeah, I'm kind of in awe. I'm paused. I'm just consuming everything in the image. But it's like, wait a minute, like I'm not reading the story. I'm not actually reading the comic now. And if that's what the artist is invoking in me, is that their intent? Is that really what they intended to invoke or evoke? Because probably, like, I would hope not. I mean, in some sense, maybe, because you can make more money. You can maybe get more interest in your book, but on another level, you want them to be engaged in the story. And that's my main focus. That is it for this week. Sorry, not this week, this bonus episode. So I'm so used to saying that's it for this week. This is not a Sunday. This is coming out on a Wednesday. Sometimes I'm going to do 2 pages in a week instead of 1, and sometimes it will make more sense to me to just do 2 separate videos. So you're going to get a few extra videos every now and then. I hope more than not, because that means I'm getting the comic done more quickly. I don't know the length on this one. I'm not sure when it comes to the story if I want to end it in kind of this cliffhanger spot, or if I want to make it a 2-parter maybe, or just make it longer. But we'll see when we get there. Okay, I'm going to keep being the practice of my art. Good luck to you all as well.